So, good afternoon. My name is Simon, as mentioned before. I'm with the software company doubleSlash, and I think I have a very interesting topic, and I wanted to present you how the Internet of Things is driving and enabling new business models, and that is quite abstract. Afterwards, I will show you, if you're interested, how the Internet of Things and APIs are relevant for such interesting cars like the BMW 8. This was a wonderful car. This is the Ford Model T. At the beginning of the 20th century, the most successful and technically most advanced car in the world. It was very easy to use, easy to handle. It was really cheap, and it was that successful that Ford didn't even advertise it for over 6 years. That is incredible, I think. But of course, ownership of a car does bring some problems for the customers, because I have to take care of the repair, maintenance, service, refueling, insurance, and so on and so forth, which from a customer perspective is not very sexy, I think. And the car manufacturer has the problem that he's totally unaware of how the product is used and where it is used. They do not have any information of the product usage, which is a problem. And nowadays it's very different. I live in the beautiful city of Munich, very central, and around my house there are so many car sharing models that I can use, from DriveNow, Car2Go, Flixster, and so on and so forth. And nowadays the business model is the star instead of the product, because I don't want to own a car, but I just want to get my mobility problem solved. I just want to get from A to B. Okay, and that's enough. And the car sharing company is perfectly aware how I use the car, in which context I use the car. And this is incredible. This is really a paradigm shift, I think. Let's briefly have a look on the ecosystem of this new business model. In the center you see the car sharing company, which is basically connected to different business partners. Of course, they have to buy cars from BMW, for example. They have to do repair and maintenance. They have to do payment. They have to clear the structure, the infrastructure with the city, and of course they provide a call center if the customer has some incidents or some questions. And in the best case, the car sharing company is connected through an API, through a web service, with all these business partners to exchange data in a very efficient manner, which is very important. So I brought to you just briefly to underline how important it is to have a new business model. How successful this is a study from the Boston Consulting Group, and it underlines that new business models are in the long term more successful than simple product or process innovations. And of course they are more complex and more difficult to set up, because you can change different building blocks: payment, usage, product, customer experience. But that means that you are not so easy to copy, instead of if you would only change the product or the process. So in the long run, new business models are more successful. Briefly, I wanted to show you from our perspective the driving forces for new business models. Of course, as usually, macroeconomic trends are always very important, because mobility patterns are changing. I personally don't want to own a car, as I said before. I do because my wife wants us to have a car, but I wouldn't have a car if I would be a single guy. So that's very different. People want to have access to their data 24/7. People are changing their consumption behavior, and people want to buy from sustainable companies. And I think using a car sharing model is quite sustainable instead of owning a own car. And furthermore, I think IoT, of course, is a buzzword, but it's becoming mainstream now, I think, and from different perspectives. the connectivity costs and the hardware costs are decreasing. Okay, and the performance at the same time is decreasing. And there are also different open source tools available, and so everybody is aware to bring up some new IoT-based solutions, and this of course makes sure that there are more solutions on the market. The third driver is that companies nowadays are aware that the customer need has to be focused. I don't want just to sell my product. I want to solve your problem, and for example, the mobility problem. Okay, and that's important to understand because it's very different to solve a mobility problem or to sell simply cars. And the fourth issue is that collaboration nowadays is essential. I brought to you this example from Nike Plus. Please keep in mind that now, in this case, Nike is a real sports company, and they are collaborating with another company, which is Apple, which is an IT company, and they are working on the same product to create new value, but they are operating in different industries, and this will be becoming mainstream in the future, that companies from different industries will collaborate. And in order to do that in an efficient and successful way, they have to exchange data in a reliable and fast way. And that is why collaboration needs digitized solutions. And I think it's quite clear for all of you that the digitization is very important. According to Freescale, even also next year, in 2016, there will be a 250 million of commercial APIs available worldwide. This is a massive amount of data from companies who are actually disposed to collaborate. Okay, and also Gartner predicted that in 2017, 50% of the online collaboration, which will happen really online, will happen through APIs. So it's really changing how people collaborate. And I brought to you an example of DHL, Deutsche Post, DHL, which they basically provide different APIs. The APIs for business customers, for private customers. They have their own marketplace. You can integrate their API for location search and so on and so forth. And doubleSlash, in this case, supported DHL to provide this API. It's very clear that they provide a clear value proposition. Because if you nowadays sell something at eBay, just think about selling on eBay, okay? You sold your product, let's say BMW i8 model, okay, for £5 or €5. Now you can directly start the logistics process in eBay, okay? You can stamp the address, you can start sending out the parcel, and that's an amazing advantage nowadays. And you can use the API from DHL for your own business as well. So basically my key message is that new business models require new skills. And those new skills are not only about big data analytics, which is very important, or IT security, which is important as well, but you have to be aware that collaboration needs efficient, digitized solutions. So you have to, in some way, communicate with others via web service, via an API. And I brought to you 4 simple tips how to start, what is important to start your own API. If you are thinking about that. Start small and set up some functionality. That's important. You don't need to start with your one-size-fits-all solution. You have to provide a clear value proposition. As I mentioned before, DHL did. You can directly start your logistics process in eBay. Documentation. Provide a simple and clear documentation which is online available. And of course, as always in the IT industry, think about versioning, because you don't. If you don't, you maybe are destroying your the business of others. which would not be very nice. So if you're interested how doubleSlash supported BMW in integrating onboard services and new content in their car, which basically is a new business model, please get in touch with me afterwards. Thank you for being here and have a good rest of today.